Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my second Mr. Haunted video for you guys. And this was 3 true scary highway horror stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights back off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road in the bag. Okay, here we go.
I work as a trucker for a logging company in Colorado and have been at it for years. Most of the time, we'd have really long routes to get to our destinations and barely enough time to sleep. My fellow truckers now refer to me as Queso, primarily because I look almost identical to the guy. Not that it matters much, but that's just what I was called. It was summer of 2004 and had been en route headed north on I-76 to haul some logs towards Boise, Idaho. My job paid decently, however it's definitely not the job for you if you're not a night owl. There's a lot of driving, mapping, and stress from the long hours of keeping your eyes on the road.
That's definitely not a job for me for sure. I'm definitely not no night owl person. But let's continue on with this guy's story.
Sometimes I'd have several long routes to where I couldn't sleep for days, even with my morning coffee. This night, however, I didn't have my coffee, primarily because I simply didn't have time for it. I was about 4, maybe 5 hours into my route, trying my best to stay awake and focus on the road with not a car in sight. I was driving on a rural highway somewhere in Idaho with woods on both sides when I thought I could see something a little ways up the road. Within 5 seconds, my headlights revealed the shape of a small person practically running up to my truck. I let out an oh shit and slammed my brakes, praying I didn't hit whoever it was. Then I heard faint crying from outside my truck and opened the door to see a little boy no older than 10 sitting on the pavement. He appeared distraught and wore dirty, oversized clothes that didn't even seem like they belonged to someone his age.
My anxiety would be freaking out right by now. Because if I saw a little kid on the road, I'd be stopping too. But I'd be afraid of him getting hit. But also, I'll be wondering where in the world he came from and where's his parents at.
I jump out of my truck with my headlights still on, asking what his name was and why he was out here at this time. It took him a bit, but he eventually gathered up the courage that he had gotten lost in the woods and was picked up by a man in a green car. For whatever reason, his story didn't add up, but I didn't really expect it to, coming from a kid. My first thought was to call the police, but wherever I was so rural that I didn't know where I was. I forgot the county my GPS said I was in, but I wasn't exactly sure where. I ended up telling him to come with me and that we were going to the police station. Apparently that was the wrong thing to say, as he then looked up at me, shook his head, and ran into the woods. And I mean he full-on ran into the woods. He was trying to avoid coming with me to not get in trouble.
Oh, now that's weird behavior for a boy. I know he's a stranger to you, but if he's going to help you, you need to go with him to find a police station. But there's a lot of red flags going up right now.
I tried to chase after him, but these woods were so dark and dense I didn't know where he went and I didn't want to get lost. After a minute, I found myself walking back to my truck and waiting a few minutes before driving off. It wasn't until about 40 minutes or so where I eventually started seeing some stores and a McDonald's. I pull into the nearest police department and immediately tell them about the boy I saw. I give my description of him to police and they said they would look into it. Well, 21 years have gone by and I never found what became of that kid. The only thing that ever somewhat possibly came close to this case was when I was eating at a diner in Utah, and that was when I saw someone come in that looked nearly identical to him. Though it probably wasn't him, as that was in 2013, and he would have been in his 20s by then. The person I saw looked to be in his mid-teens. I don't know if he was ever found, is still missing, succumbed to the elements, or is still out there living under a different name. Even to this day, however, there are things about this encounter that absolutely creeps the hell out of a grown man like me. Why was he out in the middle of the highway at 2 a.m.? Why was he wearing oversized clothing? Who was this mystery man he saw when he came out of the woods? And why did he run into the woods when I simply wanted to help him? My thoughts vary from theory to theory on this, but if I had to say, I think it had to be some sort of abduction situation. Him mentioning the man, the oversized clothes, the running off on me, it seemed like the most logical explanation. Till this day, I still wonder about that kid, and I actually drove down the same road pretty recently and couldn't shake my mind off it. Sometimes I like to think that he's still out there somewhere, but we all know that's likely not the case.
Yeah, I hope the police did find him. This is scary to think that there was a child running out there in them woods and he almost got abducted by another guy in a green car. That's just very sad. But I keep thinking, why did he run away from the truck driver when he was going to help him go to the police station? So many red flags in this mystery, and I hope it does get solved one day, and I hope that boy is all right and living the best life he could have. I mean, I know what that guy is probably going through. He probably has nightmares for not helping that boy. I would feel dreadful myself. But I bet you if that guy remembered what his GPS said, what town he was going through, and what location he's at, he probably would have been able to call the cops right then and there, and that boy wouldn't run off from him. All right, let's get to story number 2.
My family and I live in New Hampshire and would occasionally go up to Maine to visit our extended family for the holidays. It's roughly about maybe a 2-hour-long road trip up there with usually no traffic. This happened about a month ago, and I'm still shaken up as it's not only something that's unexplainable, but also just utterly terrifying. It is absolutely true and still mentally messes me up. It was the first week of January, and we had been invited to celebrate my brother's first wedding anniversary. Now, there's no real way to say this without sounding like a show-off, but my brother and his wife are very well off. They aren't rich or anything, but my brother owns several properties that allow him to earn several flows of income. It had to be around 6 or 7 p.m. when it happened, and we were about halfway to our destination. We were on the highway listening to some music when my wife and I see, out of all things, something jump out from the brush beside the road and full-on slam into it. For a brief second, we see what we had hit had to be some sort of large dog, possibly a greyhound. My wife and I panic and abruptly come to a stop with our kids becoming concerned with what was happening. By some stroke of luck, there were barely any cars out at this time, so nobody could have seen what just happened.
Yeah, I'd be freaking out too if I saw like a big greyhound dog jump out of the woods and hit him, because I'd be afraid of injuring the poor animal. Me personally, I would get out to check this to make sure it wasn't injured. But if it just got up and took off, that would be very strange. But let me stop rambling and let's continue on. See what happens next.
We both step out of the car and are now looking for this dog that was nowhere in sight that we 100% bodied. This made absolutely no sense. We just saw the dog that we definitely hit going 60, so there was no way it could have just ran off. After about 10 minutes of searching, we assumed that it must have ran off somewhere that we didn't see. And after whatever happened, we get back on the road trying to calm the kids down by listening to a few songs on the radio. It felt like forever, but we thankfully made it to my brother's house where we were met with tons of friends and family. At one point, we were having dinner when my wife mentions to the family that we had possibly hit a dog on the highway. When my wife and I point out that it was likely a greyhound, my brother says that one of his neighbors had a greyhound that had just ran away recently. He cracks a joke about how it was possible that we were the ones that hit it, which was funny to him, but not us. Growing up with my brother, he would always make unnecessary jokes like that.
I don't see how in the world that'd be funny. Because they hit a dog and then when they get out to investigate, it's not there. That's impossible. You wouldn't have been able to see it get up and walk away into the woods somewhere.
Even though nobody really found them funny. Anyway, we all get some sleep to get ready to leave in the morning. Long story short, we wake up in the morning, thank our family, and begin to drive back to our house. Now, this is the part where things get absolutely insane. It's like 6 a.m., and we're at that halfway point on the same highway we had hit that dog when I shit you not, I see it just sitting on the road. I stop the car while my wife and I are just looking at each other in complete shock. Shocked is not enough to describe what we were feeling, just utter disbelief. I get out of the car and the dog comes over to us happily as ever while wagging his tail. This was definitely the one we had in fact hit last night, but it made no sense seeing as there was seemingly no injuries to this dog. He was happy, appeared healthy enough, and was not at all showing any signs of discomfort. The dog did indeed have a collar on him which had a phone number. Turns out, it was in fact the same dog one of my brother's neighbors had lost, and I had put him in the car to take him back to his owners. They ended up giving us a few $100 for finding him, but we of course weren't going to tell them nor my brother the real story. My wife and I are still shaken up about this story and have constantly been talking about it with friends and other relatives. Looking back on it for quite some time now, nothing about it makes sense to us, and it mentally confuses us. Like, how does that even happen? I guess some things in this world are supposed to remain a mystery, and I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, you stumped me on that one. So the only thing I could come up with is like it might have been another greyhound that might have got hit there before and its ghost came back to haunt that same area. I mean, that's the only thing I come up with. But then if it was the neighbor's dog right here and it's just fine, I'm surprised the dog ain't limping. That would stump me unless the dog like just lightly tapped the hood when they slowed down and just took off without them knowing it. That is sure one weird mystery.
Back in 2007, I took a trip up to Ohio to visit a friend that had recently moved away for college. I attended school in my hometown as I didn't have the money to go out of state, nor did I even want to. The friend I had been going to visit was one of my best friends throughout middle and high school. The type of friend who'd always have your back and was someone you could rely on.
He's right. Friends like that are hard to come by nowadays because you definitely don't want to hang out with those people that like peer pressure you into doing something.
As the saying goes, all good things must come to an end, and that summer he had moved away. However, seeing as winter break would finally be upon us, I decided to use that time to go and visit him. For context, I live all the way in North Carolina, meaning I'd have to drive a lot. I didn't mind it though, as I love road trips and always found them relaxing as it was time to myself at the end of the day.
Hey, a fellow North Carolina guy, I'll be darned. But yeah, he's right. Going on long road trips is sort of relaxing. Sometimes I just take a nap in the back seat while my parents drive to our destination.
I'd always stop at attractions in different states and even stop along the roads and take pictures of the valley. Anyway, this happened the evening on the first day I had left. I was driving down I-75 in Kentucky when I happened to notice a sign that showed that there was a rest stop at the next exit. After all, I was pretty hungry, and I still had another few hours to go. Keep in mind, I was in a rural area, so there was nothing out here for miles other than a long stretch of road. That being said, I pull off to the side and enter the rest stop, hoping to grab some hot food while I'm there. There were no other cars and only two places off this exit, the rest stop and an older-looking gas station. I get out of my car and instantly notice that it appeared to be closed. I checked my watch and it was 3:30 p.m. What kind of gas station closes past noon? I thought to myself. Upon looking inside, however, I could tell that it had been closed for a while. In fact, there was seemingly nothing inside other than a few shelves moved around and a few broken beer bottles. This confirmed that it was indeed abandoned, which disappointed me. As I was about to get back in my car, I can see someone's head peer out from behind the gas station. They didn't reveal themselves, but I could tell they were watching me, but trying to not be seen.
Yeah, I was just thinking that all gas stations should be open. So if it's abandoned, you might as well just get back in your car and go. Because if I saw somebody peering their head around the corner of the building, I'm not hesitating. I'm getting in the car and hitting the pedal to the metal because I know they might be up to no good.
I gave a quick wave, making it known that I had saw them, but they had no reaction to this. As I approach my car, I then see the person step out from behind the building, revealing themselves. It was a man who appeared to be in his 40s or 50s. He was not a pleasant-looking man. While it might have been a little weird, I didn't feel threatened by his presence, as I just assumed he might have been homeless. In a respectful tone, I tell him I was leaving now and that I'd let him be. This seemed to work, as I then saw him go back behind the gas station out of sight. I get back in my car and pull out of the rest stop and back onto the road. About 20 minutes later, I'm still on the road when all of a sudden my car starts making this screeching noise before completely breaking down. Cussing to myself, I pull over and step outside to see what the problem was. What I saw sent chills down my spine. All 4 tires of my car had been slashed. All of them. I then came to the realization that someone had to have done this while I was looking into the gas station. Mind you, my tires were really good ones and could withstand sharp objects, so I knew for a fact that this was no accident. At that point, I obviously called the police, where my car had been towed to a body shop that wasn't too far. I had to pay and wait nearly an hour for the new tires before I was able to get back on the road and finish the drive. Police had said they looked into the rest stop, but whoever did this to my car was long gone. I knew right then that whoever had done this had to be involved with the man I had seen. The rest of my trip went as planned, and I was able to see my friend. I have told many people about this story, and many have claimed that it was just intoxicated homeless squatters. I have no idea what their intentions were or what would have happened had I stayed longer. Needless to say, however, I'm very glad I got out of there when I did. From now on, I always try to avoid rest stops unless they're open, and I'm always more cautious of my car.
This is why if you see an abandoned gas station or any other place, just keep driving. Because if you see somebody just poking their head around, they probably had bad intentions and they were planning on slashing the tires. I mean, he did not attack him or anything, so I don't know what was his purpose on with that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more Mr. Haunted content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Squirrel Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.